I'm going to talk about the Australian visa process. At first, you have to have the most rights with that one. In general, it's still very easy to get. You check it in advance. So hello, and welcome back. Honestly, the hardest thing for me of this YouTube thing is not that I don't have things that I want to talk about. I actually have so much on my mind and what I want to share and hear different opinions about. But always finding a place where I want to film is more difficult. But I feel I kind of like this setting. What do you think? Let me know. And we're just gonna start right away. I'm gonna talk about the Australian visa process. And I get so many questions from family and friends of family because I've been through that. So it's of course easier to ask people that have done that before. So I thought I would just share it here and maybe I can also help some of you. So at first you have to register at the page of the Australian government and create an account, and then you can basically already start your application, and then it really depends on what you want to apply for. If it's just a visitor visa, then it's really easy and normally the process is really fast. It will get processed over a day or something. Sometimes it takes longer, but normally that's the quickest one that you can get, and you don't need anything except your passport details and details about yourself. And of course, there are also things that they ask of you, like health and that you aren't a criminal, for example, but just in general, it's the easiest visa to get. And now the visa that most of the people probably apply for because it's the easiest one, you can get after that, and you have the most rights with that one if you just want to stay for a year or something. There is also a possibility to stay longer, but then it's a different visa and you have to fulfill different criteria as well. It's the working holiday visa that I was talking about here, and there are different types of this visa. It depends on where you're from, and I'm also not sure if every country is allowed to get that one, like every citizen from every country. But in general, it's still very easy to get. You have to pay for that one, and you also have to fulfill certain criteria. For example, that you have enough funds to support your trip, or just again that you're not a criminal, that you haven't done anything to the Australian government or anything like that. And some other basic things, but in general, you can apply for that. You can only apply for that once in your lifetime, and I think until the age of, I'm not sure if it's like 30 or about that. So if you are close to 30, maybe it's your time to go there now. It's like just obviously if you want to do that, but after that it gets harder to do that. And also, if you want to stay longer after your visa expired, if you've worked in a specific area, you can also apply for a second visa and also a third one sometimes. It really depends on how much work you've done in which category, but you can check all of that online. And then there's another visa which also is not as hard to get depending on how old you are and what you're doing, but it's the study visa, and that means that you either study there or do a training there, and you also have to pay for that one. And this one is a bit harder to get, I would say, because you also have to meet certain language requirements. Depending on, obviously, if you do an English course there, then it's different because you are learning the language there. But if you are there to study a specific subject, and you also normally have to show that you can speak English and understand it well, obviously, which it makes sense. And there are different other criteria that you have to fulfill. But with all of that, you can always check that. Every visa option has, yeah, specific criteria always listed there, and it's quite easy to check that. Sometimes you might get a bit confused, but normally it should be fine and it's understandable. And sometimes there are obviously more criteria than for other ones. But yeah, I would say these are the main ones. Then there are, of course, different ones. Like after you studied, sometimes you can get a visa or the work visa, depending on in which area you work. Sometimes if it's an area that is really needed in Australia, or it's just an occupation where not that many people work in, it could mean that you can also get a visa like that. But it's definitely not as easy, I would say. But yeah, I think these are the main ones. And when it comes to processing times, you can also check the website, because for each visa, normally you can see how long it takes to be processed normally, because you also have to remember to think of that before you apply for a visa and also before you book your flights, because obviously you need to have your visa before you enter the country. So yeah, it's a bit difficult if the visa takes longer to process and you already booked your flight, so you should keep that in mind. But even if the visa isn't there and that happened, you booked your flight, you don't have the visa yet, you could also go for a visitor visa and then transfer. I'm not sure, I've never done that, but I think it should be possible. There are also bridging visas, so if you want to go from one to another, you can get one. There are different categories of bridging visas, but it also depends on which visa you had before and which visa you want to have after. And also sometimes there's restrictions, like you can only apply for a certain visa if you are in the country or out of the country. So yeah, you also have to check that. And yeah, that's basically it. The processing times really vary, but normally for the easier visas, like easier to get, and obviously these visas are also shorter, you won't get a permanent resident normally if you're starting from a working holiday visa. I mean, like, if you're only starting from that and then transfer to another one, then maybe. With just a working holiday visa, it's obviously different from a more permanent visa. So yeah, it depends on the category. Normally it's quite fast. I would still check it in advance, especially if it's like a big move and decision, and like there's always so much involved, so it's not that bad to check that. Or even better, apply early and then you're on the safe side anyways. Okay, I hope I could help you. I don't know, you can definitely let me know if that helped. And yeah, I shall see you soon. Bye.